Well, good afternoon, everybody. I must say it's a distinct pleasure to be here, and I must at first recognise I'm only here because of an extraordinary team I work with who are passionate about understanding how the very best talent in the world does extraordinary things, and hopefully today I can share with you a little bit what we've learned from this community. Start right off at the beginning. The background of the program, a little bit of framework for you guys. The program I run for Red Bull was started 7 years ago, and it was designed to optimise the talent in the program. So whether you're one of the 800 athletes in roughly 160 different sports, a member of our culture program, which could be a musician, an artist, a designer, a filmmaker, a social entrepreneur, even more recently a professional gamer, if you like. You are coming to us with a distinct goal of fulfilling a dream, trying to do something perhaps that has never been done before, push the limits of your own potential. And so we try and set up frameworks and models to help you do that. The model we use is very much based on the concept of elite performance and can you hear me? Best-in-class behaviours model. So if we were to say, want to create an extraordinary leader, we would look at what it takes, what you would define as the optimal characteristic to be that leader, and we would benchmark you against those who exhibit that characteristic in their chosen field. So if creativity and compassion were elements you were looking at, we would look at the music industry perhaps, or we would look at spiritual leaders and advisors. If you had to perform under pressure, if you had to make critical decisions with big consequences, we would benchmark you against tier 1 operational forces, people whose decisions result life and death actions. And especially for leaders, we would potentially look at the explorer community, people who look beyond the horizon, people who are not satisfied with the status quo and have the courage to back themselves against that. And we would build this like super model of a leader, and we would measure you up against that. And it's important because many of the times the people come to us are already extraordinary, are already amazing, are already the best in the world. So we have to show them that there's so much more opportunity to be had. It's wonderful. The models conceptually could be anything. This is a very rough one we use just to get the point across more than anything. But it shows you that whether you're an individual, a team, or an organisation, we identify what's important on the outside and we build a model not only to measure you up against, but to manage our learnings in that space. If it's one thing I have to share with you today, the most extraordinary thing about the programs we run is we have access to all this talent in all these fields, and most of the time we're just listening and learning. And in many cases, just sharing that learning right back out. So the model looks like this. We're very, very good, especially in the athletic world, at the physical sets, the coaching, the psychology, the nutrition, the medicine. But the real game changers, the real opportunities is on the other side of the curve you see behind me. Measuring what can't be measured, looking at things like creativity, life skills, spirituality. This is where we get our greatest gains in the very, very top performers. Or as you may recognise, if you get it wrong off the field, it very much hurts you on the field. Today I want to share with you a little bit about our program. Dealing with change is one of the projects we deal with. Challenges, unexpected outcomes. Life skills. And the life skills I want to actually defer to the Stratos project because as much as it was a very technologically challenging project for us, at the end of the day it was who we were and what we were made of and how we understood ourselves that made a difference. I'll start with a little video that we sort of used from Mission Control. You can see very technical, you can see his heart rate right there, he's standing on the edge, he's about to jump. And you can see the views and the different graphs and, you can just get a sense. Well, that video should have played right then. Can you guys play the video for me, please? Maybe. I'm going to talk about dealing with the unknown later, so this is all good practice. Takes a little step. He just broke the speed of sound right there. And I think you know how it ends. One of the interesting things, though, it was so technically challenging that we got focused on that side of the equation, but it was about his personal challenges that really posed us with one of our greatest setbacks. And he spoke openly about the challenge he had dealing with the suit and working in the broader context of the team. And so this really caught us off guard. And so we sat down and we talked to him a lot, and we realized that it was about understanding more about himself and who he was as an individual that was the key to this conversation. So this was a plaque we had made for Felix, and we sat it up there, and we talked about how do you want to be remembered, and not from a perspective of judgment. There was no right or wrong. Choose to go or not choose to go, we don't mind. We needed to be safe. But think about this story as it's going to be told in 20, 30, 40 years, potentially to your kids or grandkids. And this became a call out to all of us, because not only did Felix learn a lot from this conversation, but we all did. And we all did because there were numerous challenges we faced during the project. On the second balloon flight test program, Felix had exited the capsule safely. He was coming back to Earth, but most people aren't aware we still get the capsule back as well. So we fire a charge that deflates the balloon, and then as the capsule's falling, we fire another charge to open up the parachute to lower it back down. When we fired the second charge, it didn't open the chute, so we bounced it off the deck. So it was tough. Everyone takes this as a setback. And you've got to remember, this project was 7 years in the making. But as we learn and we dealt with challenges like this over and over again, we kept having to reflect on that idea of how are we going to tell this journey? How are we going to talk about the struggles, and how are we going to act when the challenges face us in those most dire times? Because it's how you act when things go terribly wrong that make the difference. So we continually reminded ourselves, and we got fairly good at it because a lot did go wrong. Even to the day of the launch. As I said, 7 years. 7 years in the program. Day of launch, TV's lined up, media's lined up, everybody's there. We're standing there, balloon's full, Felix is ready to go. And if you know anything about these sort of programs, these balloons do not like any wind at all. I'm standing there and I feel this little puff on the back of my neck. And I was like, oh my God. I turn around and there's one gust of wind, literally, right down the center of the runway, pushes the balloon over, and the program's over for the day. And of course, just 7 years again, but at this point we'd realized there's so much to be learned, and we were going to get the job done. And failure was a distinguishing trademark for us that we were pushing the limits. It had gone from a mistake to an idea that we were now doing things that had never been done before, and this was a check that kept us in recognition of that fact. So even in failure, it was interesting when you look at it through a marketing lens, the performance still exceeded expectations. This is a graph that demonstrates sort of global streaming concurrent views on the internet of significant sports and cultural moments. And you can see even on the day when we aborted, we'd broken records unexpected to everybody, which was good in one respect, but what was really amazing was 3 days later when we launched. And it's still today, I think, is the record for global concurrent views. I think the guys at Google at the time said we were roughly using 10% of the internet, but I don't know if that's actually accurate. But it was a big number, put it that way. So the idea was, even in failure and learning about it through this process, you are being set up for opportunities that you can't even comprehend. So it was an important lesson for us to learn. What was even more important was, we had as we started to reflect on this, why was this failure such a significant program for us, and why did we learn so much? So we turned to the work of Joseph Campbell, and he's sort of credited as a philosopher, author who coined the term hero's journey, and fundamentally descriptive of all the great adventures told through our cultural heritage. But the idea that every adventure, every dream starts off with a plan, the known if you like. But pretty quickly the plan goes from the known to the unknown. But it's in those moments of the unknown that you're tested, and how you resolve yourself in those moments that determine whether you come home safely better for the experience. So what was wonderful is we applied this across to the Stratos journey, and we saw a very similar theme. Felix had had a dream, he'd had a vision. He wanted to do something that hadn't been done before. And we had a plan. I think the original plan was around 3 years. But very quickly, as we descended into the project itself, we realized that we're in for a lot more than we'd bargained, a lot of unexpected challenges, a lot of things we could never have planned for. But it's how we managed ourselves through that process that ultimately caused us to come out on the other side. And what was a defining moment for everyone and a wonderful moment for us all was when Felix, who'd faced some of his darkest hours, was when the Secretary General of the UN awarded him an ambassadorship as an example to the youth of today of following your dreams and setting their goals and living your life in that manner. So that led us, because we're always trying to think about this and how we can bring it back to make it real, to design a training program we called Arron. To take our very, very top talent and push them beyond what they think they can do. In some cases, because of some of the sports, the big wave surfing, the big mountain stuff, gets very, very dangerous, physically dangerous. But more importantly, surfing a 60-foot to a 70-foot wave is impractical for many reasons: training, practice, access. So what we decided was to look back. And we identified again in the ancient literature, a Bushido, Shaolin sort of manuscript, the idea that at a certain point of mastery, they stopped working on the craft itself. They stopped trying to be better sword players or spiritual leaders per se. They put themselves in environments where they have to work more on themselves, understand more about who they are and what they're about. They challenge themselves in uncommon ways to test their limits. And through those challenges, they learn more about themselves and what they can bring back to their craft and excel in their craft at magnitudes beyond what they could have got from the return in practice. Does that make sense? So what we see is, we said, can we take that idea and bring the best of science and technology to the program and see if we can see what we can really do in this modern day and age with all the new tools we have. So Arron is in Dante's Inferno, the river that separates heaven from hell, and is lined with souls who won't commit, so you can see the theme starting to generate here. We took 4 of our great young male athletes 2 years ago, but more recently 4 young female athletes. We pulled them out of their world, surfing and skiing. We dragged them. They didn't even know where they were going until they got a ticket to Australia. They landed in Sydney. They got to Sydney. They were flown to Perth. From Perth, they were flown to Broome. From Broome, they were flown a couple hundred miles north and thrown out into the desert in the Kimberley Range, and had to cope with a spiritual and physical challenge for the next few days, guided and supported, of course. And we measured their brains and a bunch of other things pre and post to see what happens. But wonderfully, as with everything we do, we thought we were providing a new science, a new understanding to it, but in many cases we were repeating what the traditional owners and the Aboriginal culture had known for 50, 80,000 years. And if you listen very carefully to the next clip, you'll see Leah, the traditional owner, speak to the very things that I've been describing, and it kind of could have saved us a lot of time and energy, I think.
If you respect the country, it will respect you back. Look after it, it will look after you. Become one with it. No matter where you go, the spirit of the country will follow you. There's always something there. Take them out, teach them, push them, follow them and keep them safe. They'll finally realize what they're missing. Make them learn who they are.
I want to challenge myself, really push myself to what I think are the limits and find new ones.
Red Bull is basically trying to take us out of our element and to push us in different ways and teach us something that we could take back to our sport or back to life.
It's going to be an experience that no one else on this earth has ever experienced, or something totally different out of the realm of your world.
I have no idea what we're doing. I didn't really try to find out, I'm in it for the experience, so bring it on.
It's not a set trail, a set path, and it's not something that we as guides or we as the leaders are completely familiar with. We're experiencing it with them.
Project Arron is really a physical, spiritual, emotional challenge that we've crafted to take athletes who are already great at what they do and see if we can move them to that next level in their chosen field. This science of the brain and understanding how people really perform at their very best is really the bigger conversation we're trying to crack into.
son, I feel like I'm gonna die.
I didn't think that we were going to make it back as a team today.
We're on top of a mountain in the middle of the outback. We've been hiking since the sun came up. I don't know if this is very smart.
Everybody's covered head to toe in green ants.
Oh, on my face.
I don't think I've ever felt energy that strong.
This is just next level.
I was about to pass out.
Anything could happen.
Oh shit, that's a pink spider. Oh my god. Shark, be careful!
I'm actually enjoying the craziness of it all.
Oh.
If that happens when you're by yourself, lights out, gone forever.
Oh.
So amazing young girls, an amazing experience. It could be interpreted like a poor person's survivor, but it really is very highly crafted, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And as I said, the science and the learnings we take from it are, here we go again. I'm having a hell of a good time up here today. This is a scan of the girl's brain, one of them girls. And in 8 to 10 days, we've shown that actually structurally changed the way the brain functions and operates in dealing with risk and resiliency, improving their ability to deal with the uncertainty. So no one ever trains for what's not going to happen, what they can't predict. But really for us, this was the first step into this space to really see if we could understand and learn more from it and make a difference to the very best performers we have in the program. So, as a second part, to shift very much from that side of the equation and life skills into creativity, it dawned on us that this was really an opportunity to do things in a way and for a group that had never been done before. And just because we identified the fact that creativity was powerful for our musicians and our cultural and opinion leaders in that space, for even athletes, business, no matter who you look at, it became a fundamental conversation that grew and grew and grew. So we decided we needed to understand more and more about this complex conversation. So we did so by crafting a project called Hacking Creativity. And we did it in a very fundamentally simple way. We set out to solve a complex problem using very fundamental programming. We decided that the first thing you do when you're trying to solve a tough problem is do the research. Look at the literature, try and understand what's already been done before you as a matter of respect and to identify holes. So we did that, but we got a machine to go out and look at the literature. So versus one person or a few people looking at the papers and the research, the computer went out and aggregated over the last 10 years pretty much every article, tweet, blog that had been done on creativity and pulled that information together as a reference for us. But then that's missing something. It's missing the masters, the people who typically aren't caught in the traditional research program. And we thought, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could actually interview that community as well? And then ultimately, wouldn't it be even more wonderful if we could ask the world the same question and get that global perspective on the conversation? And layering this data together, again, using some of the latest technologies in AI and deep learning and data management, could we find or learn things that previously we hadn't seen before? And that gives us a competitive opportunity. So we did that. This is what the research looked like in the articles. Every dot is a research paper or article on creativity. And the system is just organizing it based on common themes and threads. We then thought, let's break down the traditional paradigms of creativity. Hey, I'm not creative, I don't paint, by ingesting people who are extraordinarily creative, but not in the traditional sense. So this is the head of the Jet Propulsion Lab, and you'll hear him speak about the topic.
Amount of uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to be.
Yeah, you have to be.
The way I describe it to people in the business we are in exploration, you have to have your head in the clouds, but you have to have your feet on the ground. If we push the limit and fail, that should not intimidate us.
Right.
Because if we get too intimidated by failure, then we'll shy away from pushing the limit. And failure should be looked at as something to learn from, not something to be afraid of.
It's amazing how these themes start coming out even when you're looking at creativity. But of course, you do have to talk to the original masters because they just have a perspective that you rarely get to see in day-to-day life.
Yeah. All instruments whip you because sometimes they won't do what you want them to do. Of course, the instrument will say, no, it ain't me, it's you.
Right.
The instrument talks back. You never can overwhelm an instrument. All you can do is get to the, you can bring yourself to your own competence. But there's always more left in the instrument.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Sure.
You will never get out all of this piano what's in here.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
an instrument can bring you to your limits.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that really what creativity in a sense is about?
Yeah, if you can think of it.
Right.
See, that's the key.
Right.
You know, making it, to create it in your mind.
It's the tool for transformation.
Yes, yes. There you
Correct.
you got it. That's a great way to put it. See, now why not think of that?
Isn't that absolutely wonderful? So then we decided to build a system that replaced the nodes of data based on research paper with actual individuals. So anyone could upload their perspective on creativity and organise it and aggregate it in the same way. So here's a prototype of the plan talking to different individuals around the conversation here. And everyone can answer questions about the project, about themselves and creativity, can upload media, content, and the machine brings that information in and aggregates that as well. And of course, once you have the information, you can look at it nowadays with all the tools in ways that you never imagined. And we start to see these wonderful patterns and themes emerging, and hopefully maybe there's something new and interesting in there. And this is the latest iteration whereby as you load up your perspective on creativity, and that's you as an individual as one of those nodes, your sort of social feed, your media, anything you want to tag around creativity follows you in that, and that adds to the understanding of the system. So if that sounds all too complex and complicated for a topic, think about it like this. If you were to take today's presentations and the data and the screens behind me as the research, and if you were to take the presentations, the presenters' expertise and their understanding of their own data, and ultimately we were then able to capture all these fantastic conversations you're going to have at the bar at the next 2 nights. And if we could get the IP of this community in this room aggregated around these topics in a magnificent way like this, wouldn't it be powerful? Because then we can share it. Then we can give it away. And beyond creativity, character, courage, spirit, heart, resiliency, these things that everyone talks about and recognizes as being very powerful motivators and predictors of performance, but we can't really get our head around it. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So once this thing goes live and we publish it, the whole thing will be open back-end, open API for people to use and hopefully take it to another level. Which brings me to the final part of the presentation, which is, it's wonderful and it's an extraordinary experience and very humbling to spend time with people such as yourselves, leaders, people who excel in sports, culture. And we learn a lot from that community. But wouldn't it be wonderful to take the time and energy we use to make these extraordinary athletes better or these extraordinary business people better? We took those resources and put it onto people who are trying to solve the world's greatest problems. Treat young scientists trying to cure cancer like you would treat an elite athlete. A young girl who may be interested in solving the problems of the global community environment. Spend the extraordinary resources we do to make these very elite better in those hands. Wouldn't that be amazing? So we started to prototype that program last year, where we brought young social entrepreneurs from Soweto and Cape Town, South Africa, and we brought them in for a week. We taught them and shared with them many things. But one of the things we did spend a bunch of time with them on was taking the lessons from these extraordinary performers and giving it to them. People like this would typically not get access to these sorts of conversations. And just to give you a little example about what this looks like, this is this project called Amapico.
Connecting people who are doing good things.
Helping people who try to help others.
Is a place where upstarts, social innovators, people with a good idea can come and really make the most of their idea.
People call them change makers, pioneers, social activists, but really for us, a social entrepreneur is somebody who is using their creativity, their talents, their energy to really make a difference.
Help develop entrepreneurial mindset.
Turning homes into art galleries, so it's called Township Art Gallery.
The main idea
is to try to change the way in which the community looks at a mentally disabled person.
We work with artisans from the townships, painters, carpenters, tilers and pavers, and we promote their services.
Basically, it's a school bag for kids that is made out of 100% plastic shopping bags. It integrates solar technology as well as retroreflective material. So it really tries to bring green innovation, making kids aware of the benefits of actually recycling.
We empower waste collectors.
Sorry, I had to cut that short. Obviously, we like to think we made a difference to this community, but I tell you, we learned more from these individuals about the power to overcome challenges, about resiliency, about getting up every day when the world's beating you down. So what we actually learned from this community is going to empower that next generation of C-level executives, elite athletes, and things like that. So it's always a wonderful two-way street. So just to wrap up, we've come a long way as a race, and you can look at it in the context of the sort of slide behind you. In a couple of 100,000 years, we've evolved a long way. But we live in an extraordinary time. We're at a position now where we can not only understand the human condition and what it takes to help people improve themselves, thanks to technology, systems, etc., in a way that we've never been able to before. So we're going to be able to accelerate this program in not the next couple of 100,000 years, but in the next 10 or 20 or 30, you're going to see staggering changes and improvements that we've never dreamt of. And ultimately, wouldn't it be wonderful to learn from all these fantastic individuals, take this information and pass that along to the children and the next generation, because they are going to be able to, with this sort of information, live lives that we've never even imagined. Thank you very, very much.